fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce, and we got the whole squad here tonight. I am joined by Mr. Joey Ricotta, Mr. Tyler Edmonds, Mr. Nick Hudson, and the Juice Man himself. Boys, it's been a while. It's good to see all of you guys again. I've seen you guys, I feel like, all sporadically over the course of the offseason, but it's good to be all back on a microphone with every single one of you guys. First time we've all seen each other in any capacity, really, since the Cubs convention. Guys, we're 7 days away from opening day. How are each of you doing on this beautiful Thursday evening?
It's been a long time. I'm great, guys. Great to see you. Dude, we had meaningful baseball games today. Holy bleep. Right around the corner, man. We've got our first freaking baseball scandal. Baseball's back, baby. And, hey, we got hope because the Dodgers lost today. They're not invincible. We've got a shot. So let's go. Good to see you guys.
On pace to be 81-81. Juice, how you doing, buddy? I like that jacket.
Thank you, sir. Just, soaking in the beautiful voices that you guys have today.
Always. Nick, how you doing, buddy? It's been a hot minute since we've seen you.
Doing well, man. Just getting excited for some meaningful baseball coming. Like Tyler said, we got some today, which was fun waking up, and it was like 7:30. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm watching an actual game that counts.
Ain't that the truth? Joey, how are you doing, buddy?
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. Oh, I'm good, man.
This internet's not though.
I am really good. Did that sound good? What was it? I don't know. Probably deep in a little bit. No, man. I'm ready. I did not watch this game this morning. I just bet on it and woke up late and just went to work and then looked and I was like, oh shit, yeah, Yamamoto got crushed and the Padres won and I won some money. So let's go, baby. I actually have been in communication with Shohei's translator. Me and him, we're gonna get along really well. We since he's gambling, whoever's gambling, we're going to have a lot of fun this year. We're going to hang out, I think.
Hey, fair enough, man. A couple of so-called degenerative gamblers is what I'm gathering from you there, Joey. But guys, I mean, that's a great place to start things off. But first, do want to give love to the comment section. As always, Jeremiah, it's spring break for him. Opening day isn't too far away. Things are great. My dad says the boys are back, and he's starting the GoFundMe page, Joey, for your internet. And Juice's jacket is fire. Our friend Darren. But gentlemen, you guys all alluded to it in the course here of the opener in these first 4 minutes of the show. The Soul Series starts off the Major League Baseball season. There are officially games played already, even though opening day is technically a week from today as of us doing this live show. 2 games played. The Padres and Dodgers ultimately split them. Dodgers won the first game of the season. Padres, Joey, as you alluded to, came out, crushed Yoshinobu Yamamoto in his debut. And it took them 15 runs to beat the Dodgers because that was a 15-11 ball game here on the 21st. I mean, guys, early takeaways. Obviously, it's, these teams were probably still feeling each other out. They're probably still working out some of the rust of spring training as well. But we're already 2 games into the season, and the Padres and Dodgers already in the win column here in 2 separate occasions. Takeaways from these 2 games. I think that's a great place to open things up. Juice, we'll let you lead things off, buddy.
I put my hand up. I hate this. I hate the fact that the baseball season starts at 4 o'clock in the morning, so somebody's got to get up and watch it. Demo stupid. The dumbest. Why have this now? I get you can go over there. But do it in May. Like, do it in a long weekend in May and sandwich the off days so that they can go out there and then come right back and make it like a 2-game set. And it's been terrible over there. All of the reports say that nobody really there were protesters. There were people throwing eggs at Dave Roberts. There were bomb threats called into the stadium. It was
I saw that.
Horrendous. So why? I don't understand. Some teams are still playing spring training games. Some teams are in the middle of their season. It does not make sense to me. I love the idea, and I think it's great to grow the game that way, but I don't understand why it needs to be the opening game needs to be these 2 teams over there and at 4 a.m. And then I heard too that in LA, in some places, it was blacked out. You couldn't even watch it. So what are we doing? Like the MLB, every single year sets the standard for how not to run your league. And why should we be so into this sole game if you got to get up at 4 a.m. to watch it? And honestly, it seems like the baseball's ready to go because half these players would have rather taken an extra week of spring training opposed to having to be ready by now. It's just a game and the dumbest schedule that they've played.
No, and I think that's a fair point, Juice, because, you know, I don't even know how to put this without it maybe not coming off the right way, but like baseball is very much right, like it's America's pastime. It's America's sport. Everybody looks forward to opening day. It feels weird. Like I think in the minds of a lot of baseball fans, and I would love to hear from everybody else too, if you guys agree with me, it almost feels like these games didn't count, right? Like because of the way they were played and because nobody really saw them, you know, unless you got up at the ass crack of dawn to watch the games. Like this very much felt like almost like an exhibition game, like the old school exhibition games where they like, you know, remember when like the Denver Broncos in the 90s played a preseason game in Japan? Like that's kind of what this felt like. It really did. And I think a lot of fans in the back of their head still say, well, the 28th is opening day, not the 20th when the actual first real game of the season was played. So I'm curious to know what you guys say. Cause like even Jeff says here in the comments, he says it still felt like a spring training game because every other team in baseball is still knee deep in spring training. Hell, friend of the program, Cole Roeder, hit a 3-run bomb today to help the Cubs win in spring training. So, like, I agree, Juice. I think it was a very odd, just kind of way to go about it. You know, Jeff said, you know, it felt like the NFL Hall of Fame game. And our boy, Mr. Justin Steele says, Tyler, you're Chuck Norris's hero, in case you didn't know.
Chuck Norris has his picture, has my picture on his wall. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. But guy, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Tyler, anything you want to add on this whole series?
So I agree as far as I almost wish they would do this series kind of like how they did the London series, maybe even the Field of Dreams. Okay, you had the Field of Dreams game, whatever it was, 2 years ago. They should kind of maybe do something like that with this because, yeah, like you guys have said, like it didn't feel real. And I mean, let's be honest, guys, like Yamamoto probably wishes it wasn't a real game. But yeah, it just felt like it just felt off. You know, maybe if there was more build up for it later in the season, like, and I get it. It would suck to have it. Probably, I don't know the travel distance from here to Korea. Like I know with London, like it was like what 15-hour flight or something like that. Am I?
London's about 8.5, 9 hours.
Okay, but I get it. Like players probably wouldn't want to travel that far during the season, but maybe like. Just not to kick the season off. But as far as today's game, I get it. It was 15-11, but it was a pretty exciting game. And
hell yeah.
Just with the game itself, it just goes to show even the mighty Dodgers. They have a couple holes that they've got a couple things they've got to figure. I know it's early, but even the mighty final boss Los Angeles Dodgers, the Godzillas of baseball, whatever you want to call them, they've got kinks in the armor. So, yeah. But, yeah, it was a pretty exciting game today.
11-hour flight, by the way, Tyler.
What's that?
11-hour flight from
11
Los Angeles to Seoul.
Yeah. Also, very happy with Mr. Cronenworth going 4 for 4 today. That was real good for a couple of the fantasy baseball teams today. Nick, Joey, anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I agree. It was definitely a very weird time. And I mean, I'm not as connected with social media. So at first I'm like, wait, do these games count? I had to look up several times, like figure it out if these games counted. And then I'm like, yeah, they certainly do count. This is very bizarre. So to Juice's point, it's just they run, baseball so poorly. Like the blackout restrictions, all that. You talk about growing the game, but then you make it harder and more convoluted. It's just strange, but it was a good game. And waking up, at 7:30 and kind of having it on, I was like, okay, this is like fun, but overall, it's not how you want to start off the opening day as like for a Dodgers fans or a Padre fan. I think both would be like, this is weird. This is weird.
Yeah. Convoluted, Nick, an incredible Scrabble word there as well, by the way. Very applauded. Joey, I know you're last on this go around, but I want to give you the chance to add anything that we maybe haven't touched on so far.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point made that like it's a national holiday. Opening day is a national holiday. And it just goes to like what Nick was just saying about not knowing if it was a regular season game or not. Like if that just tells you how poorly marketed this was. So, and wouldn't you want those teams for the people over there? Wouldn't you want these games to be where when the teams are like at their peak in the season or actually have like a groove or something? Like the whole thing just feels really off to me. So I think that's why you see a little bit of the inflated numbers offensively because the pitching just isn't there right now. They're not there yet. It takes pitching a little bit of time to get kind of in the swing of things, especially when you add on the travel and you're talking about, I don't know what you guys were telling me it was in a dome. I didn't even get to see this, either one of these games. So I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop there, but I feel like, it's different pitching wise. If you're pitching out in the cold, then the bats are struggling early in the season. But like this is a prime scenario where the bats can be a little bit better than the pitching because they're not quite ready. If they're playing in a dome and they're playing on short travel and they're just not up to speed yet. So I don't know. You don't get the full total great product, even though you guys are saying it's exciting games. And hey, I didn't really get a chance to see them, so I'll just revert back to you guys on that one. But the whole thing is weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very strange, and I agree. I think each of you touched on it perfectly, and I think it's almost the most beautiful way to sum it up. Is like it really did feel like these were poorly advertised. This was poorly promoted by Major League Baseball because people didn't even know that these were regular season games. It's such a weird dynamic to the schedule because it's a full week before traditional opening day even occurs. Like there were so many like just oddities, I think, to this. And again, I'm with all of you guys in saying like, right, promotion of the game is great around the world. Obviously, as as our friend and of the program here, Mr. Justin Steele, the London series with the Cardinals last season was a wild success, I think, for Major League Baseball between the Cubs and Cardinals overseas. I think that was an incredible way for MLB to showcase their product on foreign soil. It felt like it was awkwardly timed. And to your guys' point, it's so early in the campaign yet. Teams aren't fully ready. You still have at least a few more days of spring training games. Obviously, most of the starters are pretty much going to be done as of Saturday, Sunday, and they'll venture back to their home cities and get ready for Thursday. But it certainly is something to keep an eye on going into the future. As Jeremiah joked about it earlier, a soulless was what these games felt like, in the grand scheme of things. But speaking of a former LA Dodger, guys, we're going to transition the topic here. Literally minutes before we hit live on our show this evening, JD Martinez has finally signed a major league contract. 1 year, $12 million. He's a New York Met. By the way, I don't know if any of you guys saw this. The Mets changed their black uniforms. They look horrific now. They got rid of the white trim in the Mets. It's just the orange trim now. It looks terrible, absolutely terrible. That's just my one old man yells at cloud take for the day. But Martinez is a Met. Guys, I think all of us are thinking it, and I kind of want to let the floor open up because I want to hear from each of you and let this get conversational. 1 year at $12 million sounds like a really nice price tag for something the Cubs could have paid to add a guy like JD Martinez to the lineup.
I said it at the beginning of the offseason. This is how you win the offseason. You bring back Belly. You
Done.
Put Christopher Morel at third.
Done.
You sign JD Martinez. 2 out of 3 is not bad. But, man, that bat, JD Martinez, man, he's a different breed. He's just a different you've got all these really good hitters, and then you've got this other tier of guys like JD Martinez. And just I thought that having his bat, just having that guy's mind in this clubhouse would be absolutely, and for $12 million, that the Mets stole him. That was a steal. Does he stay there all season long? I don't think so. Is there a chance he could be in Chicago this year? Maybe. But man, I just like you kind of like what you were alluding to, Ron. Man, $12 million sounds awful cheap for a guy that I believe had 30 plus home runs last year. I mean, I get it. He's going to be 35 years old, but the dude can still hit. And like I said, I think this is one of those things they signed him, and I don't see him in New York all year long.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, I mean, a guy like JD Martinez just continually hits. Just to quickly read off the stats before Juice, Joey, Nick, you guys chime in here. Only 113 games played last year, mind you. 61 runs scored, 27 doubles, 33 bombs, 103 driven in. I mean, bananas numbers for like that's almost the same amount of games that Christopher Morel played.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a full season's worth of
That is-
stats. If you're like, that's
in
crazy.
113 games. Like that's, and
Right.
again, like this, I feel like JD Martinez guys, in my opinion, very much sits in like the same category as like a Miguel Cabrera, right? Where like,
Yeah.
once he
Oh,
kind of
totally.
got rid of a defensive position and became a professional hitter,
Mhm.
he became ageless, truly ageless. I mean, the guy has continued to produce at an outworldly level. You know, had a down year in Boston in 2022, only 16 bombs, still drove in 62 runs though. But the year prior to that, just short of 100 RBIs, just short of 30 bombs in 21. We exclude the 2020 season for obvious reasons, but in 19, 36 and 105, in 18, 43 and 130, in 17, 45 and 104. I mean, this guy just continues to hit. And then, of course, he found, you know, it doesn't hurt that they had the Dodgers team built around him for his hitting statistics. But I don't care where you are, 33 and over 100 ribbies in just over 100 games is impressive, to say the very least.
It just makes so much sense to keep adding more power to this lineup. And going back to, remember when we were talking, we did an episode, Ron, I don't know if it was just me and you or the three of us or four, whoever was on, but we talked about where the Cubs lined up in comparison to the two World Series teams. We were talking about things that they needed to add. And we came to the conclusion that they have to add anywhere between 80 to 90 home runs going into next year because they were short in the top 10 or top 5. And the top 5 of home runs was the Texas Rangers, and the Texas Rangers won the World Series. I don't think they've added that. And we're betting heavily on guys, young players who could do it, and they're maybe having some, you know, extra games from Belly, and you know, a full year Christopher Morel gets you close. But I still think that they're short like 30, 40 home runs. I'm like, man, like that's a name that I wouldn't have minded in the DH slot. And to build on that, I mean, I know that Dansby hit for a decent amount of power, but that's not his game. And I know that when you look up and down the lineup, we worry about left-handed power, but that's what they think that Michael Busch can be. They think he can hit for power. So those are the two lefties. Then you're looking at this lineup and going, all right, it's Christopher Morel and Seiya Suzuki from the right side. A third, you know, head to that dragon wouldn't have been bad from the right side. And that's why I look at it. I'm like, man, like at that money, it would have been nice, but I don't know. Maybe there's a plan later on in the year, or you know, sometime, you know, before the trade deadline. But I mean, we talked about it last year at nauseam in May when they were so bad and they had to play so well for 3 straight months. It felt like they got to September and were just out of gas because they had to make up a bunch of ground. You don't want that scenario to happen again where you're looking at, April and May, and you're like, man, like I'm just hovering, and then you're sprinting from May. And that's guys like JD Martinez maybe buy you 2 or 3 wins early so that you don't have to do that, so that you're in it more than you're needing to sprint. And I don't know. I just hope that there's a plan behind it. There's clearly a reason why he wasn't signed to the roster, and maybe Jed and Carter have a plan B or something per se. Or maybe when cuts happen, there'll be another opportunity to bring another bat in that way. Who knows?
It's a good point. Something we'll certainly have to keep an eye on. Nick, anything you want to add on JD Martinez?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked it took this long for a team to pick up a guy like JD because, like we were saying, he's so good and he makes things a lot easier. And, to Juice's point, with power comes a little bit of easiness. It eases a little bit of having to play as meticulous as the Cubs had to last year, where they had to do every single thing right. And, you had Bellinger last year, who was a big power guy. And as Tyler said, you had to bring him back, and you did. You brought him back. What else did you add? Where else did you add? Power brings you to, you're betting on a lot of young guys, and you're betting on a lot of guys to bring more power than they did last year, which, granted, I really think Seiya is going to step up. Like, that's something I really believe in, but still, at that price tag, like, yeah. As a fan, you sit there wondering, how did this not get done?
Yeah, and I think part of it too maybe is like how much steam was there on a guy like JD, right? Because obviously it benefits now that the whole league has the DH position. It gives him a lot more teams to go to. Obviously, he goes to an NL team by going to the New York Mets. I think the thing with JD Martinez that is so fascinating is, like you guys said, like, yeah, this was a rough offseason for a lot of guys, but like the JD Martinez level free agents had no issue in this market, right? Like those were the guys that did sign early. It was the big Boris clients that took forever to sign. So the fact that a guy like JD for, again, $12 million, which a respectable price tag, but a very affordable price tag for probably all but what, 5-6 teams maybe in MLB. I mean, that is very surprising, Nick. I will agree with you there. Joey, additional thoughts here on Mr. Martinez.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you guys are saying about like how much they could have, like what his price tag is and what he's worth. Two different things. I think a lot of it though plays into obviously the age and then the fear of injury, I guess, at this point in his career. Like, because I'll be honest with you guys, like the money side of this didn't really surprise me at all, because I was looking at this, a few weeks back, and JD Martinez, we were talking about him and Michael Lorenzen, and he did between 10 and 13 million, both those guys, from an AAV standpoint, from what it looked like. So like that's what I kind of expected here, was like that 12 to 13, like high end of that, or maybe somebody goes crazy and spends a little bit more. But I don't think it's crazy for a guy like JD Martinez, because just the value, like you guys said, that hitting aspect that he can provide your team. Maybe I think it's just a situation too. We talked about this before, and in our private chats here on the show too, is that maybe the Cubs were they hit their brink of what they wanted to spend so far this offseason and what they thought was what it would have taken to get a winning product out there. Whether they're right or wrong, I don't know. But like they just hit that point of, we're going to leave a little bit of room in the jar for the trade deadline or whatever, kind of to Juice's point. But that's the whole thing with me, is like I wanted them to make this move. I wanted them to go get JD Martinez just the same, because wouldn't you rather just go get him in free agency than give up a prospect at the deadline for it? You're leaving yourself very little wiggle room, and I don't think you're leveraging yourself in the greatest, or putting yourself in the greatest spot there. Because right now they must really, this is just what I'm thinking, they must really believe in some of these prospects taking that next step, like the Michael Busch prospect, like PCA. I think they are really banking on at least one or two of these guys and just saying, hey, we don't need a guy that's 36, years old, even though he feels like he could hit forever, like Julio Franco, until he's like 50 years old. I don't know. That's just it's tough. It's a weird situation with JD Martinez.
I agree with you there. I think one thing I do want to bring a little bit of light to, Joey, and what you said with like the injury factor of all of it. He does miss a little bit of time every year, but like this isn't a guy that gets severely hurt by any means. And I think playing the DH position certainly helps that. Since 2014, excluding obviously the COVID year, last year was actually the least amount of games that he played at 113. 123 all the way back in 2014 with the Detroit Tigers. 158, 120, 119, 150, 146. I exclude the COVID year, and he still played 54 of the 60 COVID games that year. 148, 139, and then 113 a year ago. So, again, a pretty good body of work, but I think, the age, to your point, Joey, certainly could have been something to keep in mind there. And from a Cubs standpoint, they could have absolutely, said, hey, we're comfortable with what this team looks like going into the season and didn't want to make an ad there. And speaking of
I hope they're right, man. I hope they're right, because I would have loved to see Martinez. I think we all would have.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a big bet. That's a big bet that you could have added to the lineup. But speaking of the lineup, gentlemen, it's starting to kind of come into focus here late in spring training. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on a microphone. So we've gotten to watch from afar as this team kind of gets constructed in terms of what the opening day lineup could look like. So far, Ian Happ looks like the leadoff hitter as all things stand more often than not here in spring training. Seiya Suzuki getting a lot of time in that 2-hole, which not mad about at all. Cody Bellinger has routinely been the 3-hitter, Morel the 4-hitter, which I don't think has surprised anybody. And then your 5-6 guys have been kind of a combination of Michael Busch, Nico Hoerner, Dansby's kind of mixed in there as well. So 5, 6, 7 is kind of those three. And then, catching it in DH kind of rounding out the lineup here. So this lineup coming into focus, gentlemen, and I don't think we need to get too deep into this. Obviously, we're going to see what is trotted out by Craig Counsell. Still feels weird saying that, to be brutally honest with you, on March 28th here in just a week. But guys, I mean, it looks like we know what we're going to see at Wrigley Field on April 1st as a fan base in our eyeballs in terms of how this lineup's coming together. What do you guys think of the lineup that's coming together so far? Is there anything that you might change? Or do you think there is something that might change legitimately before we get to opening day based on how spring training has gone? Again, if you don't have an opinion on this, you're just like, hey, I think the lineup's cool. That's totally fine too. But just want to open it up here and get your guys' thoughts because I'm curious to hear from each of you.
I am surprised that Ian Happ has taken that leadoff spot.
Okay.
We've seen that before, and it didn't go very well. I don't know if it's obviously different. Times have changed. I remember us sitting at CubsCon and Craig Counsell saying it's all about getting your top 3 hitters more at-bats. And I love Ian Happ, and I think he is right now he's one of those guys. I don't know if that's going to work. He walks a lot, but I don't know. What he hit 240 last year. And I know that this is not a batting average talk. We don't sit here and look at batting averages, but I don't know. To me, Nico Hoerner is I would put Nico at the top. Just because he puts the bat on the ball more often.
Quick follow-up to that, and anybody can answer this. Would you be willing to play the left-right game with Hoerner and Happ at the top of the lineup, with Ian Happ maybe leading off against righties and then vice versa with Nico?
I don't know. I'm not the biggest righty-lefty fan anymore. I think if you could hit, you could hit.
That's fair. Tyler, you had a thought.
Honestly, wouldn't hate, why not? I agree. I don't want to see Nico get kind of lost in the shuffle because last season we saw the damage that Nico could do at the top of the lineup. I mean, he played. Looks like I'm looking at the wrong. He played most his games batting leadoff. He showed what he was in the top 3 as far as strikeout percentage. So it shows he works the count. He gets on base. The biggest thing with Nico too is once he gets on base to lead it off. He's such a threat to steal a bag. So you can kick a game off so many times early with the guy on second base, no outs. Here you go. Why not leave Nico at the leadoff spot? Hell, put put Ian Happ at the 2 hole. Maybe he gets walked. Say at the 3 hole, and then Cody at the 4 hole.
That would be a spicy lineup.
But anyway, not to like, but yeah, I don't want to see Nico like. I guess like we see almost just like a shell of last year. I guess if that makes sense. And I don't know, like I love Seiya. Seiya's got to be at the top. That guy, Seiya works the count so many times. Like he has so many quality at bats, and he ends up drawing so many walks. Like I think that's going to be huge. But yeah, I agree with Juice. I just don't know. We've seen the Ian Happ leadoff thing already, and I don't see that lasting all season.
A very good comment here quickly, Juice, before you add. Darren says Cubs won a lot of games last year with Tauchman in the leadoff spot, which is true. We got to see a lot of Mike Tauchman in that hot stretch, especially late in the season in that leadoff spot. So although we did see a lot of Nico Horner high up in the lineup, there were other guys that took advantage of that leadoff spot at other times. But go ahead, Juice. I just wanted to bring
I'd just like to know what's Council's theory on stealing bases too?
Yeah.
Like, did Milwaukee run a lot?
I'm on it.
Because if he's not like the stolen base type, which I think is stupid, I'm just going to say with the new rules, everybody should be running.
Yeah.
Then I mean the Happ thing kind of makes sense, but I mean, how many bases did Happ steal last year? 12.
He still steals, yeah.
But not. I mean,
Not as much as Horner.
No, not
14.
as much, nearly as much.
He had 14
Yeah.
stolen bases.
Yeah, Nico had what 40
Yeah.
bags last year.
Nico.
I was like, that's Nico's game.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
Nico's going to
I agree
steal
with
possibly
Tyler.
50
It puts
this
the
year.
pressure on right away.
I don't know. Let's be frank too, like about the lineup. I know this doesn't mean anything for the leadoff spot, but we just named Ron. You went through the whole roster, and then you put the DH at the bottom. We can't have that anymore if we're going to be contending for a World Series.
No,
The
and
DH guys got to hit in the middle, and that's why, like, going back to JD Martinez, it's like, man, like I wish that we had a guy like that.
The quickly to fill in the holes here, boys. The Brewers ran very similarly to that of the Cubs last year. So over the course of the season, the Cubs were a little better, and it might have been a personnel thing because if you looked at the Brewers roster, I don't think they had as many guys that could swipe bags. But the Cubs were 8th in the MLB last year with 140 stolen bags. Milwaukee was 11th with 129. So I think Council likes to run. I'm almost wondering if Council will run more this year because the Cubs do have truly a slew of guys that can steal bases. You got Bellinger who can swipe bags. Obviously, we saw what Horner can do with the new rules in terms of swiping bags. But maybe Michael Busch can give you 10, right? I mean, he's an athlete. Swanson gave you 10 to 15 last year. Happ's probably going to give you somewhere in that number as well. If PCA comes up, that number is going to escalate tenfold, in my opinion, if you start getting him some more regular playing time. So something to keep in thought there as well with this conversation.
Isn't Happ recovering from a hamstring? Like the last thing
Yes.
you want him to do is
He's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Early on, I wouldn't expect him to be stealing early. I wouldn't.
Also, too, like I know that he wants to
Maybe.
get the best hitters, but why not? Why not give Nico Horner more chances to get on base and steal more bags?
Exactly.
Well,
There's
so Darren
both of them.
Darren says Nico makes contact with men on base a lot. Maybe he thinks that's why he's down in the lineup a little bit more. That way he has those opportunities. Because, like, I'll be honest with you, I feel like I
The
think
chain moving that way.
I think we had this discussion at least one or two times last year throughout the course of the season. But, like, I think Nico Horner in this league, especially with the new rules and how much it plays to guys that make high contact, if he's got men on base, Nico Horner could be like a 100 RBI guy. I think if he's put in the right spot in the lineup and he has the right players in front of him. He's not going to have the power numbers.
Guys,
But just because he's hitting first doesn't mean he's not going to get those same opportunities.
Sure, but they might be a lot less though.
Well,
Because you figure if you're putting your less talented players at the bottom of the lineup, they're probably not going to get on base as much as Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, etc. I'm playing devil's advocate here because I think this is a great conversation that we're having so far. I'm just going to keep poking the bear that is you guys right now. In
Yeah,
this
but if
conversation.
if Happ is at the bottom of the lineup and he's walking, then Nico's back in those same situations anyway.
And that's a fair
And you're
point.
really
Well,
only
that's-
setting the
that's
lineup for one. for his first advance.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was gonna say, Juice. No, that's how I feel about this. I feel like we overanalyze this all the time when it comes to lineup construction, and then at the end of the day, it's going to happen that way every single game, where it gets all out of order as it goes, and that's why I do really see Council's point of just at the guys that you want to hit the most at the top, and with EHAP's on base percentage, it makes sense why he wants to try that, because he does walk really well, which is also another reason why, and you guys brought him up, Mike Tauchman. I do expect kind of a drop off a little bit this season, because I don't think that's the real Mike Tauchman. But if you look at his at bats, you look at how frustrating he was for opponents last year. That guy would work a 3-2 count almost every single at bat and foul off pitches, and it didn't matter if he got on base or not. He was an absolute pest at the top of that order. So I kind of want a guy like that with the high on base that Tauchman had. Not saying I want him to hit leadoff, but like there's just so many different routes that you can take, because you guys bring up all the great points about Nico, that they really can kind of toy around with this. I think it's also an adjustment period for Council to really learn this roster as he goes. And like he's assessing this, and he's already put his scouting in. He looks at all the analytics. He's very numbers driven. We know that. But he's going to assess this and I think make what turns out to be the right decision. Like I kind of have that trust in him to even not so much like early on, you don't want to give up at-bats. You don't want to give up outings. You don't want to lose games early on. You don't want to put yourself in a hole in April. But, like, let's say that leadoff spot isn't figured out by the first week or two. I'm totally okay with that, because I think, if you figure it out by the second week, hopefully you're still in the meantime. And, like, because Seiya at the 2 and then Belly at the 3, like, that to me that is how I wanted this constructed from that standpoint. Like Seiya 2, Belly 3, I think makes just way too much sense, because I really do expect Seiya to have a huge year this year if he's healthy. And I know maybe that's putting a little bit too much on him, but that's your guy that's hitting 35 home runs easily in the lineup this year. Like that to me is that guy with him and Morel between two. And who knows, Belly's probably hitting more homers this year, because we got to remember he cut down a lot of his power in the 2-strike approach situations just to make contact. He's probably not hitting over 300 this year. Maybe he hits 275, but he hits more home runs. I'm okay with that for a 3-hitter. So and I know I'm kind of going around a loophole or around and around here, but for the leadoff spot, it's just he could toy around with us, I think, and eventually figure it out. Like I don't know. Ian Happ makes sense. Horner makes sense. Tauchman makes sense.
Well, I was going to say, so Joey, let me back what you're saying here, because I got some numbers for you guys. So this is among all hitters. For reference, everybody in this list except 2 names played at least 130 games a year ago. The other 2 names that didn't play that many, I will call out as we go down the list. Top name in terms of on-base percentage a year ago played only 108 games, but it was Mike Tauchman. 363 was his on-base percentage. Following him was Ian Happ, played all but 4 or 5 games last year. 360 was his on-base. Seiya Suzuki was 357. Belly was 356. So, again, you got those 2 guys at the top of the lineup. Nico was 346. Miguel Amaya, actually, and obviously only 53 games, but 329 for Miggy, not too shabby. And then Dansby Swanson was your number 7 player with a 328 OBP. So if you're talking from an on-base percentage standpoint, you do really have a lot of names that you could probably tinker with toward the top of the lineup because of how much they get on base. Again, if you're playing that like analytical calculus standpoint of what Craig Counsell might be thinking, given his background as a manager.
100%. And I've got a follow up to that too. Like you look at Horner, we want the high on base, like that's really what you're looking for. But then you kind of counter that point with the stolen bases that Nico provides, and still a high average and a pretty good on base, right? Like he was still towards the top of that list. I think if he is down in there, you also set up the rest of your lineup towards the bottom where it's kind of hard to figure out where the run production is going to come from. If he gets on, think about how many times he might get on with 1 or 2 outs. Like he gets up to bat with 1 or 2 outs. He gets on. He can steal a base. He can steal a run. later on down in the lower part of the lineup where maybe a Talkman or a Gomes or Garrett Cooper, whoever's in the lineup that day, can drive that guy in with 1 or 2 outs. And then you kind of keep it rolling over there with your big thumpers, quote unquote, big thumpers starting to come around on the other side. So I just see scenarios where this really could all play out and make sense. It really is just how you look at it. I don't know. I don't really have, like, right now off the top of my head, dude, I don't really have a personal preference on it. I got to see it.
Do you guys think this lineup's deep?
Kind of.
You do?
So I don't think it's star-studded. I think it's well-rounded. Very well-rounded, if that makes – that's how I look at this lineup right now.
Nick, Tyler?
I think after about the 5 hole, you've got questions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of kind of like we talked about earlier with the front office seeming like they have, I guess, just a lot of confidence in these younger guys really having big seasons. I think after about the 5 spot, you're hoping for guys, man, I really hope such and such, Michael Busch, man, if he can just really step up and show who he is, whoever, well, I guess Christopher Rowe will be playing third base, but I don't think you got to worry about him. But yeah, after about the 5 spot, I just think you've got a few spots where you're just like, just what ifs.
Yeah, I think that's totally
let me ask
fair.
you guys a question. Outside of the home run ball, right, the slug, would you say they had a good offense last season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
They were
I think
number
they were
6
good
in baseball?
offense.
Yeah, they were number 6 in baseball offensively. If you're talking from a runs
Right, so,
generation standpoint.
But that's my kind of what my thinking is like, you want power, of course, you want thumpers, but like I see kind of what we said going into last season. We thought they might have a bunch of guys that can hit 25 plus home runs, right? And that didn't turn out the case with some of these guys. Trey Mancini didn't turn out the case. I still see that same type of scenario where there's a bunch of guys that can hit those, 1 through 6. I'm looking 1 through 6 in my, like, what I'm thinking here with Happ, Suzuki, Bellinger, Morel, Swanson, Bush, like that 1 through 6, those guys can all hit 25 to 35 home runs on a really good, on an average to good season. I think, like, if Seiya hits his peak, then we don't know what that looks like if he's healthy. There's a lot of questions still, but my point is, like, I think it's well-rounded in the sense of you expect a really good floor from a lot of these guys, at least 1 through 6, and then you have Horner there. So really, your biggest questions to me are, what's going on with Talkman? What's the regression look like? What's going on with Yan Gomes? What's that regression look like? Which we don't really expect that much. And then I do expect, we'll get to it later, but there's a guy there that I think we're not really talking about a ton. We might have mentioned his name, but I think he's going to kind of break out a little bit. So, but I think it's a.
I will say save
interesting.
that breakout player for our predictions, because that is one of the things that we will discuss there. Go ahead, Juice.
I think the Cubs. What were they last year? 6th in run score.
6th in offense.
I think that's a fool's gold stat though too, because I think that there were a lot of games that they piled on.
They were up there.
They were not the typical score 7 runs every day. They we're going to score 2 here and then drop a 20 burger, and then that's how we get to that number. So I like the offense. I'm going to say right now I don't love it, and I think for my preview, I think we're 1 bat short. I still think we're 1 bat short.
I agree.
And I just don't know where it's coming.
I agree with that too. Yeah, I mean, it has to come from within or at the deadline. There's no question about it.
I think even if things go right, Joey, they're 1 bat short. Even if Busch pans out, even if Gomes has the year that we think he can, Amaya,
Biggie, yeah,
like, they're still 1 bat short in my opinion.
Yeah, Darren
Gotcha.
said this a little bit earlier, but he said this was totally agreeing to kind of what the Cubs were doing. He says Cubs are keeping a full package of prospects, going to wait and see till before the trade deadline to make a splash for the bigger need. Yeah, and they have a deep farm, and I think there's a couple of names that are in that list that we might see this year that might have to come up and make an impact. Owen Casey, Matt Shaw, right? Like, there's a lot of guys that are kind of knocking on the door that we might not be considering right now on April 1st or, even March 28th, but by Father's Day, 4th of July weekend, we might be talking about these guys because they're lighting the world on fire at Iowa or at Tennessee, and they're going to have to come up and make an impact in the roster or because of injury, right? I mean, there's a very possible world where one of their major players gets hurt. We saw it last year with Seiya Suzuki. Belly missed a month. Like, it's just the nature of the beast. Somebody's going to have to step up. And I think that, guys, kind of primes us up nicely here for our season predictions because we're going to go into this one and dive into this one. Again, this is very just kind of shoot from the cusp. You don't have to give a huge detailed answer about why you picked this or why you picked that. Give a little synopsis for the people listening along. But we're just going to go down. We've got predictions on guys who are going to lead into different statistical categories. We've got a couple of more so like generalizations, surprise players, disappointments, things like that. A bold prediction, a record prediction, all of that here going to be worked into the next 20 minutes or so of the show. So if you're tuning along, be sure to tune in. And if you're tuning along with us, whether you are on X or on YouTube, drop your predictions along with us here in the comments, and I will do my damnedest to bring them up as we go through each topic here. But gentlemen, let's get into it, shall we? Leaders, we'll start with wins. I know it's a category that nobody loves necessarily because, as we continue to soak in information in baseball, we understand that wins is not necessarily a pitcher statistic, but it is also mostly a team statistic, run support statistic. There's a lot more that goes into it. But who are your wins predictions? I'm just going to go around the horn. I'll call your name. Share who you got leading the team in wins this year. Nick, I want to start with you, buddy, because we haven't heard your beautiful voice here in a little bit. Who's your wins leader for the Cubs this season?
Shota Imanaga.
Oh,
Ooh, I like it. Tyler?
Icy.
I'm going with the left arm of steel. Justin Balls of Steel, of course. Easy.
I like that. Joey?
Steele. I'll keep it easy.
Juice?
your 2024 Cy Young winner,
Boom!
Justin Steele.
I love that.
No.
I am also going to go with Steele, but I appreciate Nick going with a little bit of difference for flair.
Yeah, I like that.
nonetheless.
Like that. That's good.
And Nick, I'm going to come back to you on this one really quick, but this was from much earlier in the show, but we're going to share it anyway. You gosh dang right. Justin Steele himself. We're spinning Justin's words. I'm going to put that disclaimer on this really quick. This was in regards to the Tyler being on Chuck Norris's wall. That was what this comment was in response to. But Justin, we're 100% going to use it for sake of this because it's electric and it works. But Nick, do you care to give like a quick 30-second elevators pitch on why you picked Shota?
Definitely, yeah. No, I'm
yeah,
really
okay.
excited about him. And that's not just all that went into it. A little bit with obviously Justin Steele's the easy pick there, but I think that Shota's really going to go deep into games and hold things down to where we give him some run support and things could shake out. But obviously, Steele's the easier pick. But I'm just so excited about Shota, to be honest with you. I really am. I'm really excited. I've seen a couple of his spring training starts, and I'm really excited about him.
Soka.
I was just gonna say you're just soaking in the excitement around Shota Imanaga.
Soaking in the excitement.
Soka
into Shota.
I love that. Gentlemen, one quick fun comment here as well, though, from Darren. He goes, one bat, one position player, one stud starter, one reliever, usually a closer. Short. It's a Cubs thing. Yeah, it does kind of feel that way, doesn't it? Certainly nowadays. Gentlemen, your ERA leader. This one I'm a little intrigued by because I think there are truly a couple of guys that could compete for the Cubs this season. We're going to go reverse order here because I want to hear from everybody else. Juice, your ERA leader for the Cubs this year.
Your 2024 Cy Young Award winner, Justin Steele.
Joey?
I did too, so bear with me. I know we're
With a good
breaking the
time.
rules again. Justin Steele? No, not tying. I did a starter. Sorry, I did a starter, Justin Steele, easy answer. Well, we hope, and I think, yeah, Justin Steele. Reliever, Julian Merriweather. So, dude, Merriweather, he hadn't pitched more than 26 games in a season until last year. It's 69 last year. I think he builds on that.
Nice.
He had a 3.38 ERA last year, and that heater, 98 miles per hour plus on average with the great slider. Like, dude, we watched him. He was electric for a lot of the year last year. I think he's an absolute stud this year, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him like lead the bullpen charge for ERA.
I like that. I like that a lot. Tyler.
I did a starter and a reliever as well. Obviously, Justin Steele is the starter. Reliever, newly acquired Hector Neris. That splitter is going to be splitting. He's going to get a lot of ground balls. He's going to have the lowest ERA in the pen.
That's hot. I like that. Nick?
One with Justin Steele.
Nice, nice. We got a clean sweep here because for a starter, I'm also going to agree on Justin Steele as my pick. He led the team in ERA a season ago as well for starters. But I think from a reliever standpoint, I think a guy that could be a humongous surprise. So I'm just going to go ahead and take him as my answer. He came over. He was the afterthought in the Michael Busch deal. Yancy Almonte. This is a guy that has put up some really impressive ERA numbers. He's been very up and down if you look over his body of work, where one year his ERA is sparkling and then the next year it's a little elevated. I'm wondering if the Cubs, and because of what they do with guys like this, with the pitch lab and things of that nature, because his slider is literally one of the best pitches in baseball, it generates almost a 50% whiff rate. It's a crazy pitch. He's a guy that I think could very well work his way into kind of that discussion of those elite seventh inning guys, because I think we already can say that we're penciling in Neris and Alzolay as your 8-9 guys. I think there's a world where this guy could come in and maybe he's got like a 2-something ERA this season. Like I really do think that's a huge possibility. So I'm going to go with Almonte for my reliever pick for the Cubs in terms of ERA. But gentlemen, let's go strikeouts. And if you got a reliever pick here, I think this is completely applicable as well. Again, we'll go with the reverse order. It's kind of fun to hear people in reverse order. It's like a snake draft. I've had too many fantasy baseball drafts over the last couple of days, if you couldn't tell. So Nick, your strikeout leader, starter, reliever. If you have both, if you just have one, that's fine too.
Not even close. Shota Imanaga.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Love
Tyler?
it, Nick.
I'm right there with Nick. I got Imanaga.
Ooh, Joey.
So if he gets the innings, it's Shota Imanaga. He's got the strikeout stuff. He's sneaky, man. He doesn't, people, that's what's bothered me about this whole like frontline starter thing. The stuff moves and is so deceptive. He gets a ton of strikeouts, and hopefully that'll continue to play here regular. But I think if he gets the innings, he's leading the team in strikeouts. And Steele was on this very show with you guys and talk about how nasty he looks. So I'm excited for it.
I will preface one thing here, Juice, before actually no, Juice, you go ahead and you share your answer and I will share a piece of knowledge then afterwards. Who is your K's leader this year?
Imanaga, he's striking out half the batters that he faces in spring training. And I hope that was your stat.
Spring training leaderboard. This was as of March 16th. Obviously, things have changed. Not all of these guys have pitched since then, right? It's a variable stat. We've lost Joey. He'll be back soon.
That'd be one of our predictions this year.
I almost got Juice with the spit moment. So close. That wasn't even designed to be funny. It was just cusp of the moment we lost him. He vanished out of the stream.
It's
here.
just so like nonchalant. And Joey's gone again. So back to my point.
It really has become such a normal thing that like I tuned it out. But strikeout leaders in spring training as of 3/16. Obviously, things have changed a little bit since then. We're about 5 days out since then. Spencer Strider was leading spring training with 22 Ks at that time, but it was in 14 innings pitched. Ryan Weathers had 21 Ks in 18 innings pitched. Shota Imanaga, 19 Ks, but only in 9 2/3 innings of work. Damn. That's banana lands in terms of numbers. So, guys, I'm going to be fucking different. I'm going to pick Justin Steele. You know why? Because I think iron sharpens iron. I think Justin's sitting there watching Shota's bullpen, seeing how nasty he is, and goes, you know what? I like it, but I can do better. I think Justin's going to sit there. Hi, Joey. Welcome back. I think Justin's going to sit there, man, and look and be like, you know what? I want to punch more guys out. And I think we started to see that, though, out of Steele late in the year. If you really look at his body of work over the course of the season, early on, you still saw some of those games where he'd go 7, but he'd only strike out like 2 or 3 guys and really work to the contact and things like that. I think you saw Justin dial in and become the pitcher that we all think he can be in that heater stretch. Like, I still think of that Giants game.
You saw it this last start in spring training of his.
Yeah. He was
Nasty.
dialed in. Nasty. I think we get that Justin Steele over 30 starts. And if that's the case, I think it's going to be we might be sitting in the bleachers with Sean Dunston-o-meter like number signs with Shota and Steele K's, because these two are going to be in a race for the K's lead with this team. I think there's a world where both of these guys strike out 200 guys. I really do. That might be a spicy take, but I think it's certainly possible. I'm going to go ahead and still take Justin. But I love the Shota pick. And again, the numbers back up your guys' theory with Mr. Imanaga. Gentlemen, our final pitching statistic that we're picking a leader here for. Innings pitched. This is the final one we've got here for everybody. We'll go around the horn once again. Juice, we'll start with you, buddy. Who do you got?
Steele, he said it in our episode. He's trying to go deeper into games. I don't think that there's anybody else on that pitching staff that off the bat will have the leash that he will have. So I think he probably gains some ground early, and then as Shota comes into his own, maybe you get a Tyone back in there, and if Kyle has a nice year, then maybe that's the case. But Steele.
Joey?
Yeah, I think Tyone, just him being out early on, is going to take any chance that he has away from this, because I there's going to be one guy who doesn't really miss that much time. You hope at least one. But I think Shota is just first year in the big leagues. I couldn't see him like leading the team in innings pitched. Steele is proven now after last year, his most innings pitched, and like you were saying, wants it. I think the only guy that can really challenge him that's in the rotation right now is probably Kyle Hendricks. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I might pick a Steele.
Nick?
Yeah, my pick is Steele as well. With Shota, with a strikeout guy, and like Joey said, first year in the league, I can see him go deep, but not all the time. So definitely Steele, just Mr. Reliable, and Hendricks possibility, but wear and tear, hopefully. But I definitely am going with Steele.
Tyler, are you also taking Justin Balls of Steel?
Yep, I feel like he's going to go 180. He's going to break the 180 mark this year.
I think Justin's going to go 190. I agree with you guys. I think
he's
shooting
for that 200, boys. He's shooting for that 200.
Scott says, let's fucking go Steele all day, every day. Yeah, I think we all agree that Justin's the workhorse of this pitching staff. Let's just call it what it is. Especially with the Tyone injury. I think if Hendricks was younger, I think I would make the argument that Kyle could catch him if he stays healthy over a full season. Especially, he pitched great last year, right? So, we've seen Kyle go deep into games, but I think Justin's built for it, and I think that's where he's going as well. But gentlemen, let's transition to the offensive side of the house here. Batting average. I know it's not the sexy stat. I know it's not what everybody looks into all the time, but we're going to say it here anyway, just for the fun of it. Who is going to lead this team in batting average over the course of the season? Tyler, we'll give you the floor first, my friend. Who's going to be?
I've said it this offseason. It's 2024 is the season of Seiya Suzuki. He's going to be your batting average leader. Easy.
I love that. Nick?
I also have Seiya as well.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I like it. Joey?
Man, I love those two picks. I'm going to go with Nico, though.
Okay.
Still that bat to ball dude. I think Seiya's going to have a monster season. Nico maybe hits like 320. Hopefully. High end, but
that would be bananas if Nico hit 320. Juice?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the recently signed man, Mr. Cody Bellinger. The new 2-strike approach, puts the ball in play, think we get a healthy full year Cody. I think he leads the team in batting average.
Juice, I'm going to tail you on that one. I also had Cody Bellinger because I think a lot of people forget that Cody Bellinger hit 307 last year. Seiya was great. 285 batting average for Seiya Suzuki last year. That was second on the team. Nico was just a tick underneath him at 283 over the course of the year. But I, too, am going to select Mr.
I like
Cody
the
Bellinger.
Suzuki pick, though.
I do as well.
If he hit 300 and leads the team in batting average, he may put up
Doing
130 RBIs. Just tell you.
And if that happens, he's the NL MVP.
Mhm.
Which would be absolutely bananas. Yeah, I do like Belly though, because you got to get it right here. You got to hit the ball right here, and that's the one you can drive for base hits. So
Wax
I
on,
like
wax
that.
off, Mr. Belly.
Little Mr. Miyagi action there. Guys, who's going to lead this team in walks? Who's getting on base the most? We could just call it on base percentage for sake of the question. Who's your OBP leader of this team coming into this year? Nick,
Ian Happ.
Ian Happ. Yeah.
Ian Happ,
Yeah.
Juice, Ian Happ, Joey,
Hap.
Tyler, Happ.
Yeah, Hap.
Just
I mean,
walks all the time.
I
So
mean, if you look, if
It's
you look at
Seiya
last,
Suzuki. You're all wrong.
I hope you're right.
Seiya Suzuki's going to lead the team at OBP because he's going to be
He
getting on
walks a
base at a
lot, too.
400 clip.
I wanted to say Seiya, but I just feel like Seiya's going to turn a lot of those could be walks into hits. That's why he's going to lead the team in that.
Mm-hmm.
He was only, well, if we're talking from an OBP standpoint, I still think it's going to be Seiya. He was only 2 points lower than Ian Happ last year.
Yeah.
It was 360 versus 358. 2 points.
Oh, gotcha. We're talking.
Look
We're
what
just
he
talking
did at
OBP.
the end of the
OBP.
Yeah,
too.
Okay,
OBP.
gotcha. Yeah,
Walks.
yeah,
I
gotcha.
agree.
Yeah,
Walks, I think
see,
it will be in.
Walks was the category that was set.
It was.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was
I-
thinking in my head too. Still,
I changed it at the last moment.
Yeah, way to go, Ron.
Yeah. Okay, you can yell at me. All right. You
trying
can
to
yell
cater
at
to
me.
yourself like that. What are you doing?
No, I agree. I think if it's strictly walks, Ian Happ leads this team. That's what he's become and what he is. But guys, I'll be honest with you. I think Seiya's going to still give him a run for his money. I mean, Seiya's got the strike zone that, especially if a pitcher is not hitting the strike zone that day, and Seiya's just like, fuck it, I'll take the free base. I don't care. I mean, this is a guy that knows the strike zone better than most players that have been over in the U.S. for how many years. And
I know
Seiya's
he
only been
gets
here.
screwed all the time.
Yeah, if the umpires are
Literally.
actually like
There's no player in Major League Baseball that gets screwed more than Seiya Suzuki when it comes to the strike zone. It's
Definitely not
tragic.
so.
it's horrible.
As Darren says here, he says Seiya gets robbed too many
Yes.
times on balls being called strikes to lead in walks. That's fair. And Scott chimed in a little bit about I believe this was batting average. Belly, he has batting 312. That's a nice number for the city of Chicago. He says Seiya's going to bat 309.
That
If they-
version of Seiya Suzuki that we saw, I believe after like he kind of had that he took that he got benched and then he comes back and just went off. I think that version was just a slight glimpse of him just finding himself in the
A little
he's
teaser.
comfortable.
Yeah,
That was a
that's the
teaser.
guy.
I feel like that second half that second half he had or whatever it was that last month and a half. That's the Seiya. I think. I think that's it.
I dig it. Gentlemen, the sexy category from a batting perspective, home runs. Who's leading this team in long balls? Juice, I'll let you start.
Christopher Rafael Morel.
I
He's
dig
gonna
it.
hit like 40.
Joey.
Man, I kind of agree that he could have hit 40, but I also think that Seiya Suzuki healthy could hit 40. So I'm gonna go with Seiya Suzuki.
That's hot. I respect that. Nick.
I'm gonna go with Seiya as well. I love the Morel pick, but Seiya.
Tyler.
I'm going Cody Bellinger.
I
Get
like
back
that.
with it. Get back with it. Start
Juice.
hitting more bombs again. I love it, Tyler.
Juice, since the year 2019, you and I have shared a microphone quite often. In this case, we are going to share an opinion. I also have Christopher Morel, but I have a little spicy take attached to that. I think Christopher Morel hits 45 bombs this year.
I would
Ooh.
go nuts.
I think
Ooh.
Christopher Morel is going to be the reason the hard hats come back out in the left field bleachers this season.
He's my favorite player.
Bomb
Real
after
quick.
bomb
Go,
after bomb.
go around real quick. Who's your favorite player in the Cubs?
Ooh, I like
Current
that.
roster.
That's a good question.
Mine's
Great
Christopher
question.
Morel by far. Like
Position player. Like he's
Any
the
player.
most fun player to
Any
watch.
player.
Any player. That was the rule.
I'm gonna go
Joey.
Justin Steele. Justin Steele.
Fair.
Damn. You know, I've never.
It's a hard question
That's a
is.
tough one.
because I think this is a very likable group of Cubs players. Like truly, like
Very.
if, top to bottom of the roster, like I loved the 07-08 Cubs. We all loved the 2016 Cubs, but like this might be one of the most likable Cubs rosters of all time. Truly. So it's a hard question.
I've got to go Nico. I
I like
like
that.
his game. I like his
Nick?
game.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
You know, it's kind of off the cusp and kind of like strange, but I'm gonna say Jan Gomes.
Fuck yeah, I love
I-
that.
Yeah, I love Jan Gomes.
I love that. Honestly,
Dude,
I think that's
catchers,
fantastic.
especially veteran catchers, need
Yes.
respect. This
Dude,
guy,
he's a Brazilian. He's probably like
Hey.
a black belt, dude. He does Brazilian jiu-jitsu. For
Hey,
fuck's
it
sake.
Right.
says a lot about a journeyman guy that's 36 years old that's still playing.
Yeah,
It says
It really
everything you
does.
need to know.
Dude, he's
It
only
really does.
30.
hey, even as a journeyman, he got starts,
Yeah.
man. He started on a lot of
Yeah.
teams.
And he's still
50 years.
playing. That says
Been a
everything
long-
you need to know about that guy.
been around for a long time. Gentlemen, selfishly, Justin Steele's certainly an answer, and I think that is entirely built on the relationship that we've been able to build with him here as he's being a friend of the program.
For sure.
If we're taking that aspect out of it, he's such a fucking handsome bastard. And I just envy him. He's good at baseball. He's a good looking dude. He's so interesting to listen to. Dansby Swanson's my man crush on this fucking Cubs team. Like straight up man crush. Like he's the only player I own 2 jerseys of. Is Dansby Swanson. I love Dansby Swanson. Dansby is my guy. Like Justin, if you're still listening to this and you want to come on, if you can bring Dansby with you, like I would do some hysterically stupid shit for the internet to have Dansby Swanson on the show.
Okay, I was wondering where you were.
Yeah, I was gonna
No,
say,
nothing bad,
going
nothing
on
bad,
here.
nothing bad, nothing bad. Just I would like,
Again,
I would drink a full bottle of Malort in one night type shit to like get
Ugh,
Dansby
please don't.
Swanson on this show.
Oh
Like,
my
it's-
goodness.
It's up there because he's so interesting to listen to. Like we've had the pleasure of like I love listening to Justin talk. There's certain guys on the Cubs that are just so interesting to listen to talk, right? Like, like I think Justin is 100% one of them. I think I think over the years now, like Hap has developed into that kind of guy as well. I also think that like Jan Gomes, especially when he was on with Ian at the first Cubs convention that we all attended together a year ago, like talking about like Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, like that was really cool. But like listening to Dansby Swanson, like when I see new YouTube videos from Dansby on his channel come up, I like get excited because it's so interesting to listen to him talk, whether it's him talking through how he plays infield, whether it's him listening to, you know, just how he operates on the day to day. And you know what? Scott's 100% right with this pick too. He was over on our friend's show with the Dingers, but Patrick Wisdom was a cool dude and like a fun guy to listen to. So like, again, this is a very likable Cubs roster. So I get that. That was a really hard question, but
How to
one
piss
that I
juice off
can certainly listen to.
in less than a second.
Oh yeah, just bring up Patrick Wisdom. It sends juice through his wall back there. He gets stuck behind the Chicago Cubs flag that's behind him. He just gets launched out of his chair. It's like an eject button.
Yeah, Ejectocito, Tyrese.
Ejectocito, Cuzzo. All right, Paul Walker. Anyway, getting us back on track here. RBI's leader for the season, Tyler.
I have got Seiya Suzuki.
That's hot. Nick.
Cody Bellinger.
Ooh, that's also hot. Joey.
Yeah, he's hitting 2, not 3. So I'm gonna go Cody Bellinger instead of say I was gonna go say. I'm gonna go with Belly.
Juice.
Not Patrick Wisdom.
Juice.
That's Suzuki.
Seiya Suzuki. This is a hard question. I feel like Belly and Seiya are the easy answers, but I feel like there's going to be somebody that just throws us off. I'm going to take Christopher Morel. because if he's hitting 4 and he's hitting home runs at the 45 home run clip, like he's gonna get like 120 ribbies because there's gonna be guys on base in front of him. So I'm gonna go off the cusp here. I'm gonna say Christopher Morel is your RBI leader for the Cubs this season. I think that one could be a lot of fun as well. Let's be honest. All right, final category before we get into more of the kind of, I'll call them creative predictions per se. Who is your WAR leader for the Cubs this season? I'll lead it off because it looks like everybody's kind of dialed in on this one. Dansby Swanson's our WAR leader between defense and offense. I think Dansby has a better offensive season than he did a year ago, and he was still really solid a year ago for the Cubs. I think he comes out the gates hot this season. I think he's kind of nestled in to the Cubs organization, to the Cubs culture, to the Cubs fan base. Like I think he's here. Number 7 is the golden boy of this Cubs team. I think Dansby's a 5 WAR player this year. Maybe even 6 if we're getting real spicy here. Like, I think Dansby Swanson's going to lead this team in WAR this season. Juice, do you have a name on the mind?
I did, and then I rethought it because I think my guy that I picked is going to play a little bit more first base where it's harder to gain wins against WAR. I'm going to go with your guy. I'm going to go with Swanson strictly because I think Belly plays more first. And the Cubs figure out somebody else in center field.
Okay. Joey.
Yeah, you both stole my answer there. I would have been Dansby Swanson, and I think hopefully he has a better year offensively this year. I agree. He's going to be over a 5-win player this year.
I like it. Tyler.
I think it's going to be the same guy from last year. I think Nico Horner is going to – if he just does anything remotely close to what he does last season, I think he's going to be better than that. It's Nico.
I like it.
He led the team in WAR?
Yes.
I was surprised. That's surprising. I did not know that.
Nico did? Let me see. I did not know that either.
I love the like shock and confusion of
Yeah.
of Nico
He had a
leading.
5-point WAR, and Dansby had a 4.8.
And then
No.
and then Belly.
So different
4.
sites. So I think if you're looking at Baseball Reference, yes. If you're looking at Fangraphs, Swanson technically had a higher WAR. So
Baseball
Regardless.
Fangraphs. Yeah.
whatever. It's here nor potato, Tyler. I don't know.
I got you. I understood.
Nick, who's your WAR leader before Joey steals your spotlight?
Swanson.
Okay.
Very
we had
good.
to drop that one in there. No, I wanted to make sure. But no, I think that's going to be a good one. We got a couple of fun comments here as well. Darren says Belly if he plays center field full time. Juice, I think that's where you were going initially with yours. But this was from the RBI chat. Scott says Bush will lead the team with RBIs if he starts 140 games.
That's
That's
interesting. Yeah.
That's spicy, but I like it. I fucking like it.
I like it.
Darren followed that up. He said Juice nailed it. Belly will be playing first base too much. Be interesting. Kind of contradicting comments because Scott's like, hey, if Bush is your everyday first baseman, he's banging in like 130 RBIs. Whereas Darren's like, Belly's going to play too much first base, so he's not going to be able to get the WAR numbers up.
Did Bush play any third this spring?
I don't think so. I don't recall.
I was just curious because I know he came here and.
No, I think everything at third base has been exclusively like Madrigal, Mastrobuoni, Morel.
Okay.
Like I don't think. Is it weird that they're all M's and then Wisdom's an upside down M, and they all play third base?
Yeah, W for waiver.
Damn.
Don't tell
A little
Scott
harsh
that.
there, Juice. Come on.
Scott's gonna drive all the way from Iowa to smack the shit out of you.
Hey, speaking of Michael Bush, it just goes back. I mean, I know we talked about the very beginning of the episode with JD Martinez and not getting signed. It is interesting to think about that as far as with Michael Bush and just maybe because for this team to be successful, does Cody Bellinger have to be out of center field and PCA in center? Like for this team to be like to reach their full potential. PCA
has to be really
So you're saying is
So
Michael Bush going to DH?
exactly. So maybe
maybe
that's what they're banking on. Or maybe it's a combination of Bell. I don't know, but it just makes you think about that.
It's a good thought. Speaking of good thoughts, who is your surprise player for this coming season? A guy that you expect to take a big step forward, Joey, you kind of alluded to this throughout the show, so I kind of want to let you lead this off. Who's your surprise player this season that really comes out of the woodwork and makes a big difference for the Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, you could go so many different routes because we've been talking about this whole episode and for a long time now on the show. Not just this episode, but just this show, Cubs on Tap. You could go with any of the minor league guys that are like getting close. I'm gonna take someone who's already on the roster. I think that I love Yan Gomes, obviously. I think he's going to regress just a little bit, but I think who's going to really step up, at least with the bat. I think his power, he has enough thump in that bat, and he's starting to learn the game behind the plate even more. And if he stays healthy, I think we're going to see a very strong season and maybe a surprise improvement to some people with Miguel Amaya as he kind of emerges into that starting role this year.
That's hot. I like that pick a lot. I really do. That's a pick I think is not far off and is sexy. Joey, just to follow that up really quick, I was having a conversation with my dad the other day, and that was exactly a topic we discussed. Was Miguel Amaya is probably going to surprise a lot of people this year. He's not my pick, but I think that's a phenomenal pick because again, you look at his very small sample size, 53 games a year ago, but he put up nice numbers in a 53 game sample size.
Yeah.
You give him a full season, even if it's splitting catching duty with a guy like Yan Gomes. So let's say they each catch about 80-ish games this year. He could really have that kind of impact. Maybe so much, Joey, dare I say, that if there's games where Bellinger's in center field and Bush is playing first base, maybe Miguel Amaya is your DH in certain games because
could be. That's a very good point. And that also maybe could be why they were looking at someone like a Jorge Alfaro, who's maybe more defense first in the minors, because all right, if somebody needs to hit, if they want to go three catchers, now they have that flexibility to really
and you can let Alfaro
catchers, but
you can let Alfaro call a game, and then if you just want the bat in the lineup and you want to give Miggy's knees a break, you can let Miggy come in and hit. Mm-hmm. Something to think about. Juice, who's your surprise player this year?
So I did two. I did one that was on the roster already, and then one that we're going to see later on in the year as an add-on. I said Christopher Morel for a guy who's on the roster already. I think he's going to play in the position at third, locking that down, making that something that we don't have to worry about anymore is kind of the goal for him this year, and I think he does it. And then again, I think he hits 30, drives in maybe almost 100. But my spiciest take is something that I went down the rabbit hole on, at least a little. I think that the minor league guy we see surprise come up is Mr. Owen Casey, and I think it's very soon. Owen Casey is eligible for the Rule 5 draft this coming Rule 5. He has to be added to the 40-man. So that only opens up the time for him to come up and produce I think if the Cubs were going to look for a DH bat, I like Amaya, but I think Amaya defensively and being behind the plate is where he's going to end up getting most of his days. I like Yan Gomes, but I think they're going to catch pretty equally to the amount of games just to save him. But I think Owen Casey comes up, and I think he has some success once he's added to the 40-man, which is, pre-Rule 5 eligible.
Nick, who's your surprise player?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Michael Bush. He was with the Dodgers, kind of a cloud in front of him, didn't really have a clear path. And now that smoke's cleared and he sees his role, I think he's going to just take off and try to grab it and go for it. So I think Michael Bush is going to surprise us all.
I like that a lot. Darren agrees with you there, Nick. He also said Bush here in the comments. Tyler.
I've got to agree with Juice on Christopher Morel, but not necessarily because of the bat. I mean, we know what we can do with the bat. I agree. I think he's going to surprise us all by taking over that third base spot, like you said. I think he's going to get comfortable with it the more he gets reps in there. I mean, you watch the great and powerful Dodgers today and Max Muncy over there at third base, and you just saw how much he struggled. And it's going to happen. I think Morel's going to get comfortable. He's going to get comfortable with his arm there, like just making those throws. I think it's easily Christopher Morel. The other one I had, it's not really a surprise. It's not a surprise for me. It's not a surprise for any of you guys. I think it's going to be a surprise for just the rest of the baseball community that's not, hardcore Cubs fans. It's Seiya Suzuki. That guy is going to, I think he makes the All-Star team. I think more people talk about him. He just doesn't get, he hasn't been talked enough in these past 2 years. And I think this year, just overall in the baseball community, Seiya Suzuki will surprise a lot of people.
I think that's incredibly well put on Seiya. And a guy that doubled down on it, now a friend of the program, very excited to call him a friend of the program. But Juice, you were on that show with me, was Mr. Jack McMullen. Was huge on Seiya Suzuki. He is right there riding with everybody. He says, hey, if there's any Cubs player that's going to take that leap this season, he believes it's Seiya Suzuki. So, Tyler, I think you're 100% right. I don't think any Cubs fan will be surprised by that by any means, but I think the national landscape of the baseball fandom would be surprised by a leap from a guy like Seiya Suzuki. Gentlemen, I too am going to take the Juice route here really quick with a guy from the minors and a guy on the roster. I agree. I think the guy on the roster is Christopher Morel. I think that he's going from a 26 home run player to a 45 home run player. I'm very adamant about that number 45. I think if he's within 40 to 45, I feel good about that escalation. I think if he hits more than 45, I'm going to feel like a fucking rock star. But I think he's going to really surprise people. I think he's going to take over that home run, just that thump in the lineup, in the middle of the lineup that you don't want to pitch to. I don't give a damn if he hits 240. I don't give a damn if he strikes out at the 30-ish% clip that he does now. If he's hitting 45 bombs this year, that's going to take this Cubs team far. But Juice, I also want to double down on what you just said. I've been banging the Owen Casey drum all spring. I think he and Matt Shaw are the two players that come up this season from a bat standpoint and have massive contributions to this Cubs team. It's whether it's going to be through an injury, whether it's going to be through just pure production. This dude at 20 years old in Double-A hit almost 290. 290 as a 20-year-old at perhaps what's widely considered the toughest level of minor league baseball. He's the real deal. There's a reason that the Padres gave him up in the Yu Darvish trade. He is the real fucking deal. He played for Team Canada as a 19-year-old, effectively, a 20-year-old. I mean, this guy, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to come up. I think he's going to rake, right? We all sit here and we're concerned. Where are the Cubs going to get their left-handed power hitting? That guy. That fucking guy is going to come up and hit absolute moonshots onto Sheffield. There's going to be some poor bastard walking into Murphy's during batting practice that just wants to get a cold beverage on a summer day, and Owen Casey is just going to fucking annihilate him with a baseball. It's going to happen.
Poor guy.
It's going to happen.
Sorry for him.
I think Owen Casey is the biggest wild card of the Cubs season. There's two wild cards, and they're from each side of the plate, in my opinion. Owen Casey's one of them. Brennan Davis is the other. If you get meaningful contributions out of both of those players from the Cubs at the major league level this season, this Cubs team can go very, very far given what their current state of the roster is at the major league level. And Juice, I'm so happy you said that, because that is a guy that in private conversations with just like friends and family and in my own head, because I do a lot of internal thinking about the Cubs, like Owen Casey is the guy that I'm fascinated with coming into this season from a minor league standpoint. Like almost, I know Matt Shaw has kind of captured the landscape from a Cubs fan because of the spring he had. But like Owen Casey had just as good of a spring. And I think everybody acknowledges that. But I think Owen Casey's the bigger wild card in terms of what he could come up and do for the Cubs this coming season. So I love that pick 100%. But gentlemen, we're on a high note. I got to bring us back down to a low note here. Who's your biggest disappointment for the Cubs this season? And it could be for any reason. You could say it's because of injury, because of whatever. I leave it to interpretation. Biggest disappointment, Tyler, you're too bubbly, but I got to let you lead this off.
I will say this I hope he's listening. I hope this player is listening, and I hope he takes this and just says, screw you, Tyler. I'm going to prove you wrong. It's Jameson Taillon.
It's a good one. Nick?
Yeah, I also hope this turns into like an old takes exposed type of thing, but I'm worried. I think that there's going to be some regress to the mean with Javier Assad.
Ooh. And fun fact, something we didn't touch on this show yet, just a news piece that I want to bring to the attention. With Tyone being kind of an injury protocol, we'll call it, because of the back, Javier Assad, the newest addition to the starting rotation per Craig Counsell today. So your 5-man rotation in no particular order will be Justin Steele, Kyle Hendricks, Shota Imanaga, Jordan Wicks, and Javier Assad to begin the year. We might see Javier Assad on April 1st, as a matter of fact, as the way this thing shapes out. We might see Javier Assad on opening day at Wrigley, because if they're going to go left, right, it's going to be Steele, it's going to be Hendricks, it's going to be Shota, and then it's going to be Assad, and then it's going to be Wicks. So something to keep an eye on. But that's a spicy pick. I respect that, Nick. I respect that a lot. Joey, biggest disappointment.
Well, if that's the case and that's the way that it lines up, Nick better be wrong for at least one day with Javier Assad. But yeah, so kind of alluded to it earlier with Jan Gomes and Mike Tauchman kind of regressing maybe a little bit, but those aren't going to be my biggest disappointments. I think this is going to piss people off. Maybe, I don't know. It's nothing to do with the way he's performed in the spring, which hasn't been that great.
Say it.
New addition, Hector Neris.
Oh.
So he pitched way above his expectation in advance last year. The 1.71 ERA with the 4.45 xFIP. That's a huge discrepancy. And that doesn't mean everything, but like when you look at ERA compared to what xFIP or FIP means in general, right? That's to take the fielding aspect out of it. So that kind of really what it tells you is that there's moments where the defense really saved him or played a bigger part into the ERA.
The defense saved his ass.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and that's not all of it, but like, fielding independent pitching is like what you can control as a pitcher, really. So, and I'm not saying he's not good. He's very good. He's shown it in the past, not just last year. And he's a veteran. He can definitely get it done. I think he still might have a good year. I think it's going to be disappointing, though, for what some people maybe were expecting when the signing was initially made. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Is just not like a major disappointment, but maybe just minor compared to what people thought.
I like it. I like it a lot. Juice, your biggest disappointment.
I did two. I did one for the batting and I did one for the pitching staff. I'm going to go with Michael Busch for batting. I hope I'm wrong. I do. When he has been in the major leagues, it's just not the proven track record yet. I know it's a small sample, but I just don't see it. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one. But they're asking him to do something that I don't think he can do, and it's not his fault. And if he were towards the bottom of the rotation, I'd be okay with the output that he's probably going to put up. But they're asking a lot from Kyle Hendricks this year to be that guy from the right side. When, let's be completely honest, guys, like he's coming off of 2 bad years and an injury. And he looked good in spurts last year. He didn't look good like consistently. So that's a problem, I think. And it's an end of the road kind of deal for him coming up. They didn't give him an extension. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he can be that. But I just don't see Kyle anymore as that top of the rotation that they were going to ask for him right out of the gate.
I don't think that's a horrific pick by any means, Juice. I'm gonna take the same route that you took here because I was wrestling with 2 names. One was a position player, one was a pitcher. So I'm going to go that way as well. Quickly, I want to get to Hank's comment here in the comment section. He says, I'm way more excited to see Sean Casey over Busch for some reason. Maybe it's because Busch is 26, but I'm not down on him by any means. I am down on him. He is my disappointment pick from a batting standpoint. It's not that I think people think he's going to come in and hit 40 bombs. I think Michael Busch in a perfect silo is like a 270 hitter with like 20 homers, but he drives in like 85 runs. And that's not bad. That's not bad. But the hype he's getting because he's a top prospect, there's going to be some disappointment, right? So like you can be a disappointment and not be a total fuck up at the same time. And I think that's what the case is going to be with Michael Busch. I think people are expecting him to come in and be this big power slugging first baseman. I think he's going to come in and very much be like an early career Freddie Freeman type first baseman. Not a lot of power, but hits for a decent average, drives in some runs. Like I think he's going to be that kind of player more so than the big thumper that people are expecting him to be from the left side. That being said, on the pitching side, I am going to get a lot of hate for this. And again, it's very much in the same vein as Michael Busch. Shota Imanaga is my pick for biggest disappointment. Because I think he's going to strike a ton of people out. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but he's going to get hit hard. And that ERA is not going to be so sparkling. And it's going to disappoint people because I think people have in their mind that Shota's coming in and is having like a 3.20 ERA and like 200 Ks. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be like maybe flirting with 200 Ks, but I think he's going to be at like a 4-something ERA. And it might be like mid to high 4s because he got banged up a little bit in spring training. Like, let's just call it what it is. He got hit hard at times in spring training. I think that's going to be a thing. I think the weather is going to benefit him early in the season, especially at Wrigley. I think a lot of those what-if home runs are going to just turn into really loud outs. But when the wind starts to blow out at Wrigley come mid-May, end of May, early June, I think he's going to have some games. I think the offense can bail him out. But I think you're going to have games where you go, fuck, he's just getting tattooed right now by all of these guys. And that's something to keep an eye on. Scott says Ron just shit all over my prediction of Busch leading the team with RBI. So sorry, buddy. I'm not trying to be a dickhead, I promise.
Nick's
Darren
surprised too.
Yeah, and Darren says I'd take 275, 20-plus homers and average first baseman with a smile for Busch. I agree, and that's exactly what I'm saying with the disappointment aspect of Busch. But I think people are saying he's like a 30-100 guy right away, and maybe he might be a 30-100 guy in like a year or two. I don't think that's totally out of the question. I think you got to give the kid a fucking chance to figure it out at the major league level. Scott might win.
Just to add to that,
yeah,
like the Dodgers don't trade just anybody for let's face it.
You're right.
The return they got in Ferris, like it's a lottery ticket. Like I like Jackson Ferris a lot, but they don't just trade anybody off of that roster. They're really smart.
Well, and they had to clear up some 40-man space, so there was a little bit of an asterisk you could include to it. But it's fair, right? Like it's a calculated risk, I think is where you're trying to say, right? It's a very calculated risk. Dodgers are a smart organization. Andrew Friedman won games with the lowly Tampa Bay Rays from a dollars and cents standpoint. Now he's with the Dodgers, and you're seeing what they're becoming at that point. Scott wins, by the way, gentlemen, of biggest disappointment. I hate to say it, but I think Happ takes a step back and gets replaced by the end of the season.
Whoa.
That's
too hot.
That's the hottest one of the disappointments by far with Ian. That'll be something we need to keep an eye on, gentlemen.
Follow up in the chat for who? I need an answer.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Scott, please. Who is replacing Ian Happ? We'll share that here on the show in just a few minutes. But gentlemen, we are going to transition while Scott gives us an answer here. The first dinger, and I say dinger because, as everybody knows, our friends over at the Dingers podcast are a part of the On Tap Sportsnet family. We are going to ensure we do some more crossover stuff with our friends over at Dingers this season. And one of them is going to be their Dingers picks. We're going to see at the end of the year which podcast picks more successful dingers. Will it be the Dingers boys? They'll have their own internal competition, as will we. I kind of want to beat all of you because it's just fun and it's the competitive nature in me. But as a group, are we going to put up more successful home run picks than the Dinger boys? So with that on the mind and fresh in the brain, who hits the first dinger of the season for the Cubs? And I'm trying to see who looks the most ready. Nick, are you the most ready?
I'm the most ready. Seiya Suzuki.
I like that. I like that a lot. Joey.
Yeah, I told you guys beforehand mine would be a little bit of analytical. Eovaldi, I was looking into him just a little bit, we know that he's getting the opening day start for the Rangers. Throws a lot of fastballs, four-seam fastballs, and cutters to right-handed batters. And it seemed like last year the splits were more reverse splits. So he was getting teed up a little bit more against right-handed batters than lefties, even as a right-handed pitcher. So I was looking at who the right-handed hitters were in the Cubs lineup and which hitters did pretty well against four-seam fastballs and cutters, which he seemed to be throwing quite a bit against the righties. And those are the ones that tend to give up the home runs on when he gives up home runs. So Dansby Swanson, pretty good. A guy with a good X slug, solid numbers versus four-seamers and cutters last year. And according to Dansby's own YouTube, like you were mentioning earlier, he was training in Amarillo, Texas. So a little bit of comfortability here going into the season in Texas. And I'm hoping that the Cubs' first dinger of the season will be on opening day. So just optimistically, Dansby Swanson, opening day.
Love it.
I like that. I like that a lot. Juice?
I'm going to follow up on that answer with baseball is stupid. It makes no sense. And numbers are stupid. So give me Michael Busch by everything that I said because baseball is
Yep.
I dig it. I dig it. Tyler?
I'm going to go with Scott's most hated player, Ian Happ.
Tyler, I'm going to ride your coattails. I also had Ian Happ on the brain. Ian Happ has been
done it before.
He's done it twice. He's done it twice for the Cubs.
Oh.
That first leadoff home run on the first pitch in Miami a few years ago against Urania, and then he did it last year. Actually,
yeah,
it was
that's
the
right,
first home run because there was not a single home run on opening day. It was the second game of the season. I was there with our now friend of the program, Mr. Kyle K, and feeling awful, by the way. I ended up getting that freaking sinus thing that our boy Joe Sanders ended up having when he came to opening day. Thanks, Joe. But Ian Happ hit the first bomb of the season, and it was the first Cubs home run. So I too am going to say Ian Happ is my pick as well. With the dingers on the mind, we're going to go back and get Scott's answer here really quick before we get to the last couple predictions of our show. Scott said PCA or some guy Juice loves from South Bend. He says Canarino. He meant Canario. I know what he meant. And then he fully comes back and says that PCA can give them the Gold Glove if he can hit better. Canario gives them more power than Happ, just not as good of a glove. Just depends on what the team needs more. So something to keep an eye on. But Scott's coming out with the spicy takes. Speaking of spicy takes, I want to know your spicy takes, gentlemen. Bold prediction. This one I'm putting you on the spot. This one wasn't in the notes that I sent you guys earlier. What is one bold prediction that you have for this season? I was, for reference, last season, a couple of these hit for us. I think we went like 3 of 5, if I remember correctly, on the bold predictions. I said the home run numbers was one of them. I said that at least I think I said 4 guys would hit 25 bombs. It ended up being 6 guys hitting 20 bombs, but like we weren't too terribly far off by any means. I'll go ahead and start this one off while you guys think it through because I put some thought into this. My bold prediction for the Cubs this season. The Cubs are going to shock everybody. They're going to shock all of us here at Cubs on Tap. They're going to shock everybody in the national landscape. The Chicago Cubs are going to have a top 5 offense in baseball, period. And it's going to be consistent because guys like Seiya Suzuki take another step forward. Michael Busch does enough as a player to, add to this lineup. Bellinger has another season like he did in 2023. Morel takes that power surge forward. I think Ian Happ, Swanson, Horner, those guys continue to do what they've done offensively, if not slightly better. Miguel Amaya, another guy that I've kept in mind. I think he's a 15 home run candidate, even playing in minimal games. I really do believe the Cubs are going to be a top 5 offense in baseball. And I think because of that, Council's going to have this team humming, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And we could be doing shows deep into October, gentlemen. I really do feel that way. But my spicy take and bold prediction is truly that the Cubs are going to have a top 5 offense in the major leagues this year. That's my bold prediction for this season. I've given you guys a moment to think and absorb that one in and take it all in. Nick, you look ready. You look ready to shoot from the hip. Hit me with it. What do you got? What's your bold prediction for this coming season?
So I was a little too bold last year. I believe I had predicted 90 wins. But I'm going to say that the Cubs take the division for sure. I think they win the division with the newfound wisdom of Craig Counsell, some additions, some things going our way this time. I think we take the division.
I like it. I like it. Juice?
God, I hate to say this. I think the Cubs finish in terms of pitching staff ranking below the top 15 in baseball.
Ooh. Ooh, that is bold.
Which helps Justin Steele win the Cy Young
I think Justin's the only thing I could
because
really
it's
bet
like
on
it's
this.
like the hot girl and then like
Her friends.
I don't like their 5 this year. I
Okay.
don't. I'm just gonna be
hey, Juice. I'm not. I know this isn't my take or nothing, but I'm kind of on that boat with you, man. Like
I
this
don't love
team,
it.
this team only goes as far as that starting rotation, and I agree with you, man. There's just a lot of questions after Justin Steele.
Yeah, to me it's like Justin Steele and then okay, Kyle. I don't know.
Yeah,
You don't know. Then you go to Imanaga, it's his first year in the bigs. I mean, we've talked about his
yeah.
hard hit rate. He's going to strike a lot of people out, and Bronny made that. And then you go to Wicks, Wicks showed some stuff last year, but
I
I
agree.
mean, he's young. He's got a lot to work. And then you're 5 right now. Jamison Tyone hurt. Can't be trusted right now. And Javier Assad is not going to go deep into ball games. I think that they're going to really tax that bullpen. I just don't. I don't like their pitching staff. I like what they have in the minors, and I just don't know if those guys are going to be ready yet. I don't know.
That take.
Intriguing. Tyler, your spicy take?
We've kind of talked about this player throughout this whole podcast. Some of you guys have talked about his power boost he's going to have and how it's possibly going to shut up all the naysayers about the other parts of his game. Christopher Morel will lead this. He will make the most appearances at third base over anybody else on the roster.
I like that.
I like that take a lot as well. Joey.
Man, a lot of good ones here. I'm going to say that Seiya finishes top 3 in the MVP race this year. Seiya is top 3 in the MVP race, and that means the Cubs are in the postseason.
That's hot. I like that. That's bold. We like that. Scott's got a bold prediction, guys. The Cubs are trading for Juan Soto at the deadline. That's his bold prediction.
You better resign him.
If you want my
it better
honest
be with an
opinion,
extension.
I'm going to quickly build off of what Scott said. And Juice, I think in relation to what you said, I think if there's any position the Cubs are buying big at the deadline, it's starting pitching. I think that's where it's coming.
It's getting really worrisome, honestly. And as you guys are talking about it more and more, I'm getting more and more worried about the starting pitching now.
Yeah.
You know who the biggest kind of wild card though, I think in that answer is, though, gentlemen? It's Cade Horton. 100%.
It's too early.
And Ben Brown.
It's too soon.
I don't think you're not gonna see Cade till probably closer to the trade deadline.
Yep.
But I agree with you, Joey. Ben Brown is another name. Like one of these two guys, they don't have to come up and be all-stars right away. But if they can come up, pitch meaningful innings, and have like a sub-4 ERA, that's a humongous win for the Cubs, in my opinion, from a starting rotation.
One of those guys is going to have to come up and be, to be honest, the number 2. Because you've got that number 1, and then you've got a lot of number 3s.
We'll see what Shota does, but
you can't pitch Shota and Justin back to back because they're very similar pitchers.
Right. Yeah.
We saw that with Kyle Hendricks and Alec Mills a few years ago. The next guy gets teed off when you put too many guys next to each other. Yeah,
God,
and it's not
awful.
saying they're bad pitchers because obviously they're not. They're just they have a very similar arsenal. Imanaga's maybe a little deeper because he throws a couple more different things, but like. in terms of the moving fastball and things like that. Like it's a very similar look with Justin and Shota. So they cannot pitch consecutive days. You have to have that quote unquote number 2 guy, who's probably a righty, in there in the mix, which early on is gonna probably be Kyle Hendricks, unless they get really crazy and they pitch Javier Assad too. But I think it's gonna be Hendricks.
Either way, it's dangerous and scary.
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous and scary. Hank says Canario just needs to be given a chance. He's going to be pissed if he doesn't get a shot like Velasquez didn't. That's a guy to keep an eye on. Nelson Velasquez. Let Nelly swim. He's going to swim in Kansas City, Joey.
Dude, he's hitting tanks this year. He's hitting many tanks this year.
I think he's going to be a 25 home run guy at least.
Easy.
I really do. And it's going to suck watching it from afar, but like good for him because he's got to swim and things got to be good. Darren says Morel's going to lead all third basemen in errors.
That I think that's going to go to the guy that played third base for the Dodgers today, in Max Muncy.
Oh,
Like I seriously, after watching
He's not
Morel,
good.
after watching, and I know it's just been 2 games, but with Morel, I'm not as nervous or worried about Morel playing third base. When you see a team like the Dodgers, when you see Max Muncy that has obviously struggled, to be honest, they've got more of an issue on the left side of their infield than the Cubs do at third base. And that's no knock on Mookie Betts, but you're asking a guy to play shortstop who's never played in the majors at shortstop, even though he is a good athlete. But then you've got that mixed with a Max Muncy who has struggled at third base. I'm not as worried about our situation when you see that.
Do people forget too that Aramis Ramirez played
Exactly.
for the Cubs for like forever? He was awful at third.
But his bat just said, "Shut up about my defense."
well, and you know what's on top of it too, though? If you look at that left side of the Cubs infield, you know why I'm not worried about Christopher Morel? Because God forbid he can't get to a ball. You know who's going to get to it? Number 7.
I got you, boy.
He's gonna make some sliding backhand grab in the hole and fucking fire it to first for
At
an
that
out.
point, too, you remember how many years Aramis was at third and it was Noodle Arm Terrio at short?
Yeah.
He couldn't get to
God.
anything. Like, yeah.
Now you have a gold an established Gold Glove shortstop.
Yeah.
In that left side of the infield with Morel. So I agree with you. I think it's gonna be interesting. Hank with a fun one here. He says Horton gonna give a mini Kerry Wood boost right around June.
He'll have.
Ooh, Cade Horton, 20 strikeout game. He just said it.
That'd be hot.
I better get my
freak
ticket.
the fuck out. I'm telling you right now, guys. Like if something like that happens at Wrigley this year, and like any of us are there, it's gonna be banana lands. It's gonna be the stupidest thing ever.
You're gonna get
That'll never happen again. It won't.
Never say never. Speaking of things that we can never say, we can never leave at this show without a record prediction because last year was fun. Juice, Joey, I believe you two were the actual closest. I think you guys were tied. I think one of you was over by 2 wins. I think one was under by 2 wins. Was very, very close. Tyler, you were the next closest. You were only off by like 3 wins. I think Nick and I were the optimistic assholes and picked this team to win 89, 90 games. But that's neither here nor there. Gentlemen, I need a record prediction. You could just go by wins. You don't have to give me exact math because I can't do exact math at 10:30 at night either. How many wins does this Cubs team have? Nick, you got to lead it off because you were the furthest away last year.
Yeah, this was way too bold last year. I'm going to tone it down, but still, I'm going to stay around 82 wins.
Oh, okay. Juice, you look like you agree.
81 wins. I think they're the definition of average.
Okay. Tyler.
I'm going to go 85. I'm going to go 2 more than last year.
Okay. Joey.
Yeah, I think
62.
it's gonna take some help with the pitching, the starting pitching in particular here. But if they can find it, 1 or 2 more guys just have enough depth. I got 87 wins, 87 and 75.
I'm very excited about this. Nick, I get to be you from last year. I'm going to be the optimistic asshole here. Cubs are going to win 91 games this year.
I hope you're right.
Ooh.
Me too.
So when they win 90 at the end of the year, when we all sit on this podcast again, all 5 of us, I'm going to laugh individually at every single one of you when they win 90 games. And when they
I just
don't,
need 'em to win the
you
division,
all can
man.
collectively sit here and laugh at me. and I'll be
They're
okay
going
with
to,
it. I'll be
Ron.
like, you know what? Hey, I'm
Gotcha.
going to be the optimistic asshole. I'd say
I
91
believe
wins.
I believe DraftKings has them. What is it, the over under, like 84.5? I think.
Sounds about right.
I think it's 84.5.
Hey, if we learned from last year, 84 wins get you in the playoffs. So,
Yep.
you know, I think if they Joey, Tyler, I think either one of you. I mean, fuck, honestly, 82 and 81 could potentially be enough to win the division. God forsake.
Yeah, I think you
mean,
could squeeze maybe.
it depends what the
82 and
Cardinals
81.
do. The Cardinals, I think, are the biggest wild card, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to be good. I know a lot of
I
people in
don't
Major
think
League
they're
Baseball
that
are like,
bad either.
the Cardinals are going to be great. Yeah, I
I
think, their
think that
pitching's gonna
first
fail
game
them,
they're
though.
going to shit their diapers and they're not going to be able to come back from it.
I
Because
just-
they're all a bunch of senior citizens over there.
I think their pitching's going to fail them, Joey. I think that's going to be the
Yeah.
problem. Sonny Gray's already
Yeah,
hurt.
maybe.
He was your big ticket acquisition. He's already going to miss time. Lance Lynn's going to give up a lot of runs. Yeah, he's going to strike people out and call people slapdick motherfuckers, which is cool and tough. But like, he's going to give up runs because all he
He's
does
gonna
is
give up a
throw
lot, yeah.
fastballs.
Kyle
know,
Gibson, he's going
Kyle
to forget how to get to the
Gibson,
park on his start
Miles
days.
Nicholas, like their
He's
Did he have an
rotation,
issue with that?
their rotation is painfully underwhelming. And I think that's what's going to hurt them. I think Arenado bounces back. I think Goldschmidt has a good year. Like Gorman's going to be a pain in the ass because he just is. Like they have so many guys that are just pain in the ass players, especially when they play the Cubs. Like that's just what it is. But I really believe that their pitching is going to fail them. And I think that's going to be what hurts them at the end of the year. I think their offense is going to be good. I bet you they're a top 10 offense in baseball. But
They might
I
be
think their
looking
pitching
at our
staff is
team,
gonna really
though.
fuck them up.
I believe their pitching is
Same
going
way.
to fail them, which is why they trade Paul Goldschmidt by the deadline.
Oh, another little.
So
Minnesota.
I'm
You
more
guys-
worried about the Reds than anybody else, to be honest.
the Reds are the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
Reds-
Reds are.
The Reds are a wild card for sure. For sure. We got a couple of fun comments here from the comment section. Darren says 83, but the council factor puts it to 88. Scott might win the comment of the show so far. This one made me laugh. He goes, Ipe Mizuhara told me the Cubs would only win 81 games, so I'm going with 85. So for reference, for anybody that maybe doesn't get that joke, Mizuhara was the name of the interpreter that for Ohtani, who just got fired because of the whole gambling scandal.
Oh,
going on
took the
with
fall.
Took the
Yeah,
sure,
took the
whatever it is.
fall.
We don't know all the facts yet, but the scandal at hand, that's what it is. So Scott, you might. I'm gonna star that comment. That one gets favorited for the show because that one actually made me belly laugh. That one was good, gentlemen. We got one more thing before we talk a little bit about opening day, because assuming that we can all get our things in order. It's not a shot at you, Nick. You are the wild card here. All five of us could be in attendance at opening day. At least four of us for sure will be there. It's going to be very exciting. I'm stoked about it. I'll be honest with you guys. Like I told myself, I was like, yeah, well, opening day gets here when it gets here, and then we all jumped on the mic together again. And like now I'm itching and scratching for April 1st. Like it's gotten to that point now throughout the course of the show here. But we got one more thing. So we all know, and Juice, this is credit to you. This was a hell of an idea. We all know the gaffe that happened this year with the Cubs and their new hashtag. It's you have to see it, but they tried to do it. You have to see it as the hashtag. Well, of course, every 3-year-old minded child, like probably all five of us thought as well, thought you have to see clit was what people thought it was because it looked like, or see sit or whatever it is. But they had to change it. They had they had to let it soak for too long, and then they had to go back and spell out the word see, S-E-E. So you have to see it, even though it's C for the C of the Cubs. So we're all going to have our own yearly slogan for this team this year that we've had to come up with. This was, again, Juice's idea. This is purely for the comedy sake of this. Obviously, none of these are going to be used by the Cubs, but we're all going to probably reference them throughout the course of the season because it's going to be funny. Juice, I have to let you lead this one off because this was your idea. So what is your Cubs 2024 slogan?
Just soak it. No, I'm just kidding. Soaking up suds and raising dubs.
Ooh,
All right.
I kind of like that.
Hire me, Cubs. Hire me.
Oh my God, absolutely, absolutely electric. Of the three of you, who is ready to go next?
I've got mine.
All right, Tyler, hit me with it. Joey, you'll be next.
So it was going to be about Jameson Tyon, and then I just I took out his name because of something that happened during this show, and I feel like it's going to be I mean, it's already been a major talking point for the past year.
Oh boy.
Damn it, Joey, you're effing internet again.
The Cubs put that on their hashtag. I'm fucking hating.
Oh my God. Oh, that's so stupid, but it's probably so true and so funny.
Yeah.
Should not help but laugh. Joey, your 2024 Cubs slogan.
All right. Mine's not nearly as funny, but I have two hashtag slogans. Hashtag group mentality. Hashtag no stars, all studs.
I like
That's
that.
my slogan.
I like that.
I like that second one a lot, actually. No stars, all
stars.
studs.
All studs, baby. Let's go.
I dig it.
I think that's the key to success this year for the Cubs.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. It's a big brain. It's a big brain idea by you there, Joey.
A little bit of win and ugly. Is that?
Hey, look. Sometimes I pull them out. I don't know where they come from.
Scott says the only
Where
thing
these
worse
ideas
than the Scott says the only thing worse than the Cardinals is Joey's Wi-Fi.
Dude, has it been acting up tonight like terrible too? I can't.
It
tell.
hasn't been terrible, but you've had a couple of moments where it's
Honestly,
been
today's
funny.
been your best day yet.
It has truly
There you
has.
go.
But it's just
I don't want
it's
to use
become-
Tyler's hashtag.
it's become such a narrative though, Joey, that it's a running joke now. Like we
It
can't
is.
not have it. Nick, what is your Cubs 2024 slogan?
Cubs glory. Taste the victory.
Let's go. It's like a Bud Light commercial too.
I was gonna say that sounds like a beer commercial.
That or like just somebody just
Taste the victory.
Cub fan, Bud man. I love it.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Okay, we've got a couple of fun comments here real quick before I share mine. Hank says Joey got that Rice Krispies wife.
Just crackling. Just
Another
crackling.
That one gets a star. That one's funny. Darren says keep it controversial. Hashtag 24 Cubs fill in the holes.
Oh, fill it, yeah.
Fill in the holes. Fill in the holes. You got to fill in the holes.
We still got holes.
Scott's is hashtag let the kids play.
Didn't the White Sox do that?
bet on it.
Oh yeah, come on.
I thought they did.
They did.
This one,
Did they? Yeah.
Well, no, that
They
was
did.
MLB, I think, but the let the
It
kids
was
play
MLB.
was like Tim
yeah.
Anderson that like there was like starting that.
Yeah.
let
Tim
the kids
Anderson
play.
like let it. Yeah.
What team does
Yeah.
he play for now?
Miami
know.
Marlins. Yeah.
the Marlins, the Miami
Wow,
Marlins.
the Tim Anderson is way better than Javier Baez. Way better. That lasted a very long time, by the way.
It did, and neither one of them are in Chicago anymore.
Look at them
How they
both
both
now.
They're
Both of them
both pretty
suck.
bad.
now Dansby Swanson is by far and beyond the best shortstop in Chicago, and probably would have been even with those two in the city if we're being brutally honest.
I
So
don't know. Paul Dijon.
Oh,
Paul
strikes
DeJong.
fear right there. Dijon. Shrimp
Dijon.
Dijon. Paul.
Dijon mustard.
Paul
I
Dijon.
dig it.
Sean.
My 2024 Cubs slogan is I've admittedly evolved this one over the course of the show.
Okay.
It's going to be soak in the sun and capture the W's. Because I think this summer's just going to be absolutely electric. Truly, I really feel that way. Like I am mentally sitting here on March 21st. We've still got an hour and 15 minutes until it becomes the 22nd. March 21st, I am daydreaming about being in the Wrigley Field bleachers on like June 3rd and just getting sunburnt and crushing way too many beers at Murphy's Bleachers, and then taking that to the bleachers and then trying not to die in said bleachers during the course of the game, only for it to venture outside of the ballpark afterwards, dance at Cubby Bear to the great DJ they always have there. Like, I'm soak in the sun and capture the W's. That's going to be this Cubs season. Because again, I'm the optimistic asshole. They're winning 91 games, boys. All right. That's what's going to happen this year at Wrigley Field. Gentlemen, we have one more talking topic before we get out of here. We've hit the 2-hour mark.
Remember,
We have
Rob,
never done this.
that none else works. Come to Wrigley. 0 gunshots during the game.
Correct. Yeah. Nobody's smuggling a gun in underneath their belly fat at Wrigley Field like there was at the G spot. But gentlemen, we have one more thing as we cross the 2-hour plateau here to discuss, and that is opening day. Again, we 4 or 5 of us are confirmed to be there on opening day. We are optimistic that it will be all 5 of us. If you're going to be at opening day, come hang out with us. We're going to be at Murphy's Bleachers before the game to start things off. We're probably going to get there hella early. If it's anything like last year, I'll be up at like 6 o'clock in the morning because I won't be able to sleep. I'll be so excited. That was how it was last year. You guys can all confirm. Tyler, Joey, you guys were staying with us, and literally, like, everybody was like, "Oh, good morning, Ron." I was like, "Yeah, I've been up for 3 hours already because I just couldn't sleep." I was so excited. It's probably going to be that way again this year. April 1st is going to be an absolute blast. If you're out and about, come say hey to us. We'll crush some beers together. We'll have a good time. It's truly, Joey, you brought this up earlier in the show. It's truly a national holiday. Opening day is a beautiful day. Obviously, the Cubs open on the road, so our Chicago holiday will be April 1st at Wrigley Field. It's going to be special. I truly cannot wait. It's going to be so good to see you guys as well, and we're going to have an absolute ball. We're going to be out there all weekend as well, so if you're in the city for the weekend, if you're coming in from out of town, Cubs fans, let us know. We're going to be oot and a boot over the course of the weekend, or at least a few of us will be. But we will all be in attendance on Monday, hopefully, and crushing beers together in the bleachers and having a grand old time at the Federal Landmark on the north side of Chicago. Gentlemen, before we get out of here, I got to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap, one of 2 official podcasts here for the On Tap Sports Network covering the Chicago Cubs. Be sure to follow our friends over at the Dingers podcast. I got unfinished business with Jake Bunowski and Mitch this year in our fantasy baseball league. And we're also going to take it to them here in the Dingers competition as well. But be sure to give them a follow. They're at Dinger Cubs on the socials. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You know the drill over there. Do the same for us as well. We're at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. And be sure to follow all of us at Loose on Tap, Juice on Tap, Joey Knows Nothing, Nick _ on Tap, and Teddy Freddy 270. We appreciate every single one of you jumping in, whether you were on X, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook. Thank you for joining our comments this evening as well. And guys, we got it all. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. And yes, Cubs fans, we have your South Side friends covered. The Sox on Tap guys did a hell of a documentary over the course of the offseason, kind of discussing the rebuild 2.0. Well done, though. Incredibly sad topic. Cubs fans cannot relate, but they did a hell of a job with it from a cinematic standpoint. And if your friends are as sad as our friends, let them all be friends together and join over at Sox on Tap. Darren with a big shout out. Cubs on Tap, best podcast. Cubs forever. Thank you, sir. Thank you again to everybody for listening. Again, OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet, on the socials, the OnTap Sports Network is where you can check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. And on April 1st, what's on tap will be an old style and all of us at Murphy's Bleachers before the Cubs take on the Colorado Rockies to start off the home slate of the 2024 season. We can't wait for it. We can't wait to hopefully see you guys as well. This is our last show before the Cubs take on the Texas Rangers on March 28th. So take it in, enjoy us. Hit us on the socials. Let us know what you think of our predictions and what we think of this team coming into the 2024 season. And then we can all regroup and talk about it over the course of the year. We'll have a show on the 28th after opening day. Cubs are off on that Friday. Saturday, Sunday, they play them in Texas. We might have a Sunday night show for you. It might be a couple of us in person live together in the city of Chicago. And then we'll probably see you on April 2nd, as April 1st will be a hashtag Crack'em Day of celebration for the Cubs on Tap crew. I'm Ron Luce, from all my beautiful co-hosts, Mr. Juice, Joey, Tyler, and Nick. We appreciate you guys tuning in. This was the season preview for 2024. We'll revisit this episode at the end of the year. This one's always a fun one to revisit after 162 games. Gentlemen, what do you boys say? We got out here the only way we know how. At Cubs on tap.
Thanks for listening. Go Cubs.
FTC.
Let the garlic bread play.
Just soaking it all in.
And let's go Cubbies, baby.